Great. Hi, everybody. I am so glad to be here. What a great audience. And I apologize. I went to RSA last week and came back with what I call the RSA crud. But this time it has stuck around for much longer. So if I have a hacking fit in the middle of this, I will make sure to put it on mute before I do that for your benefit. But thank you for being here. And it looks like I do have control, right? Yes, I do. So let's get started. This, there we go. So I started thinking about this whole topic when I kept hearing from other CISOs, and Frank just noted himself as well, the struggle that you have when you stand in front of a bunch of leaders, executives, the board of directors, other non-technical kind of people, and you stand there and you have such great, exciting, important information to give them, but yet they look at you like, I don't understand. It doesn't compute in my brain. That whole R2D2 does not compute from Star Wars look on their face. So how do you align what you're doing, all those great things you're doing in security to what matters to the business? And this is what I call phase one. This is the foundations of how to go about doing this. And then you build upon this and build upon this because, of course, everybody's company is very different from each other's. So you have to really customize this. But these are the foundational layers. So let's get started. We're going to first talk about making security matter because it does. That's what we live and breathe every day. How do you frame risk with executives? That is a whole nother ball of wax that we're going to get into. Then how do you go about winning buy-in from functional leaders? And you'll find that as a security leader, if you haven't found out already, half of your job is negotiation and persuasion, getting other people to do what they don't necessarily want to do. How do you persuade them and negotiate your way there? And then questions, if you stick them in the Slack channel, I will be happy to answer and respond to them. So, sorry. So first, why make security matter? Why do you even care about paying attention to what I'm saying right now? Why is it important to make security matter to executives and board of directors? Well, one, to gain consensus. Everybody's on the same page. Two, to persuade and influence. What I was just saying, many groups don't necessarily want to start doing specific security related initiatives or tasks. They have their own busy lives and their own busy roadmap to deal with. So how do you persuade? And then collaborate, all work together, play nicely in the sandbox, achieve. And the final one is influence. How do you influence? How do you say, I do need more resources. I do need more budget, and you influence their way of thinking. And of course, there are others, but these are the main four that I have found why it's important to make security matter to executives. So how do you make security matter? Well, we are all human beings, right? All this technology and AI does not replace the fact that we are human beings at the end of the day. Human beings care about what matters to them. So you have to fine tune what you're trying to get across to what they care about. So it can be by your audience, or it can be by specific people. There's been times where I've gone into meetings and I have literally crafted a message by individual. And I've gone through every single message because I wanted to get across a certain message and I wanted to get them right where they understood it. So they really understood what I was saying. So how do you frame risk with executives? So let's take a step back. Every organization has key industry imperatives. Every kind of vertical cares about different things, very specific reasons as to why they exist and how they become successful and what they need to do to drive their business. So let's look at manufacturing, for example. Manufacturing cares about uptime. They care about distribution and logistics. They care about, well, I mentioned uptime, but every minute that you can't produce something, that can translate into a significant amount of dollars that is lost. So that's critical to manufacturing. Financial services. Well, what's critical is that the ability for the customers to always get money from ATMs when they go into the bank. Money is there, the availability. This is what they care about. They care about the availability. They care about the safety and the integrity of transactions. Then you have healthcare. Healthcare, I think, is probably the most obvious. Healthcare cares about saving lives. That's from a humanitarian perspective, but healthcare also really cares about research, and it really cares about revenue. And the revenue comes from what they call heads in beds. This is what drives healthcare at a very high level. Retail. Well, if you're an online retailer, you gotta be open. If your site is down, you need uptime. And if your site is down, people will jump ship. You also need to have brand recognition. Brand is everything. You need to have a solid way of receiving goods, returning goods, and also distribution and logistics. This all matters to retailers. SaaS companies, my last company where I was a CISO was a SaaS company. SaaS companies grow very quickly. They're all in the cloud. And so a big focus for SaaS companies is how much can we do and how quickly can we do it? When can we get these new product features out? How soon can we get our testing done? How soon can we deliver into the hands of customers? Very tight roadmaps that are built out, very product and feature driven. And then finally, nonprofits. Nonprofits are all about donations, right? And the good that you do with the donations. If they don't have donors, and donations coming in, they can't function. So this is a key business driver for nonprofits. So as you can see, each one of these, and your industry may not fall into one of these, but if you look at your industry that you're in and write down what truly matters to the success of your organization, not only from an industry perspective, but from also the organization itself, what makes it tick. That's the customization part of this. Put together that list. Then we'll move on to the next step. We're going to use manufacturing as an example here. So as I mentioned before, some key industry drivers, imperatives to success: production uptime, making sure that the systems and the factories are running; technological innovation, making sure that you're keeping up with what you need to deliver on your promises to customers; and then finally, logistics and distribution. If you don't have a network, a trustworthy network to ship and deliver your goods or whatever you're manufacturing, then you're in trouble, right? Or else it's just going to sit there on the trucks or in the factory. So these are just three of what's critically important to a manufacturer to be successful in business. So let's look at bringing security into the picture because we love security. So let's look at how does security help these general business imperatives or industry imperatives. So production uptime. Oh, that's a little hard to read, a little cursive. So production uptime, well, security can help protect against attacks, which can cause interruptions. So we, the security organization, help protect the manufacturer by actually reducing the number of times or potential for these interruptive production attacks. Another one is you're able to launch new tech confidently if you incorporate that security by design program. Excuse me for a second. Security by design program. You're able to go to market. You're able to push your new products, your new innovation. You can do it confidently because security is involved. And if you launch something at the the CES, Consumer Show in Vegas, that big one, that hackers or attackers are not going to come in and disrupt your presentation while your CEO is presenting the new feature or the new product. And then logistics and distribution. So what they call the last mile. The last mile is often the most important. How do you get it from the last stop on the delivery route to the person's house or to the business that it's going to? So ensuring that that's protected, that there are no snarls in the way and that are going to block how items are delivered from point A to point B to point C. So this is what security can help manufacturers do as part of the general business. And then the last step of this is to think through then what would happen if security did not enable those key industry initiatives. So what happens if you weren't involved at all? And then what would happen? Then what would happen then? These are the discussions that are going to resonate with your executives because this is then how executives view risk. So can you quantify, going back to this production uptime, can you quantify, it's hard to quantify security, right? But you can quantify the cost of a production uptime interruption. Let's say 5 minutes equals X amount of dollars. You can get that from another group in the organization. You can get, if it's down for 1 day, what does that mean in dollars to the business? Therefore, you can then say, well, the security team can then offload and reduce the chances, probably significantly. Well, you never promise anything in security, right? But then we can help reduce the potential for interruptions in production, which can then impact the level of revenue by expected X, Y, and Z. So you have some numbers there in ways that executives understand risk. Technological innovation. If you don't have security by design integrated in the process and something happens, there are delayed launches and time to market, not to mention the negative media. You can possibly quantify how much would a delayed launch and time to market cost for the company. You can potentially, a little difficult, but you can potentially put a number on the hit to your brand reputation. That is a little difficult, but you can potentially do that. What would happen? Because you've got all this, you've put all this amount of money into the research, and then suddenly, as the CEO is presenting at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, something happens and disturbs it. How much is that going to cost the company? And security can help protect that from happening. Of course, don't promise anything. You can help. And then finally, if there is a interruption in the whole logistics and distribution pipeline, you're going to have snarl delayed deliveries. How much does that cost? And you can get those numbers from a different group in the organization. You can get the numbers, the dollar amounts for how much does a delayed delivery cost. And you can then say security can help align and protect against that kind of money revenue loss. Excuse me. Then bonus points, if you really want to customize and really bring it home, take your organization's North Stars. They sometimes call them North Stars. They sometimes call them the mission statements. If you can then also interweave in what those are, that will really drive home the point as to what role can security play in reducing the risk factors that resonate with executives. And that's what makes it matter to them. So the next section, section 2 of 3, winning buy-in from functional leaders. This goes into the how do you persuade and influence and get buy-in from people who may not necessarily want to do what you want them to do. For example, a very, very simple example is requiring HR, for example, to follow a process for onboarding or to require background checks from new employees before they're given access to the network. HR has enough to do, right? In their minds, their process is working perfectly fine the way it is. Everyone gets a background check. Sometimes they get it, maybe the results a couple days after they start. So what? That's okay, but you're trying to get them to change their processes and methodologies. So how do you do that? You have to really align with how they see things. And you need to make your need resonate with that specific group to gain buy-in. And as I mentioned before, every person is different. Every person is driven by different needs and wants. So try to make it as personal as possible. If you have a one-on-one meeting with someone, that's great because you can find out what their key motivating factors are, what makes them tick, what makes them sit up and their alien ears go, right? What does it mean to me personally? Now, people are driven by driven by different things. And there's many of these out there. You can just Google this. But people are driven by different things. And these are the ones that I really, really focus on. Recognition. People like to be recognized and noticed for their work and their achievements. For some people, that is more important than these other factors. For some people, recognition is like, I'm retiring in 5 years, don't really care. I just want to do a good job, and in 5 years, I'm gone. Some people are like that. So figure out what makes them tick. Money. Sometimes people are motivated by money. There are certain groups, if you offer them Amazon gift cards, for example, to do a certain task, they will jump all over it. There are certain groups that if you offer them the same exact thing, it doesn't resonate with them because they get highly paid. It doesn't matter to them. What matters to them more is recognition, for example. Career progression. Of course, you can't promise a promotion of any sort, of course, but you can show people how agreeing to do something and working together on an initiative for the betterment of the business, you can show how it will be good for their career. They will be known for this. It branches into the whole recognition one, but this is what people have done in other companies as they progressed up the career path. Belonging. This one is very very effective with folks where money doesn't resonate or recognition doesn't resonate. People like to belong. Happens every day, right? People like to belong. There are some people it's less important to them. There are some people where it's critically important for them to belong to a group. So if you recognize that in an individual or a group, you can then position your messaging to to say something around the effect of this will make the group work better together, the company work well together, everything, group A work with group B work better together. It will be something that you will connect with others. And finally, the other one that I think is should be generic across everybody, but to some people it matters more than others, is the success of the company. So we in security need you to do these certain things to help the company succeed for the betterment of the organization. So these are the five that I think are typically the most that I've seen out there. And then if that that will then tail into why should I care? So first you go into who am I meeting with? What is the group or the individual I'm meeting with? What drives them? So that's the first piece of how you tailor your messaging. The second piece is what function are they in? And each function, just like when I covered industries, how it has their specific drivers and imperatives, their function has foundational drivers as well, things that make it tick, things that are important to it. So further align your message by this. I'll show you how. So identity and access management, not exactly the most fun topic to talk about, right? But it is one of the most crucial to talk about. And it can be made a little more exciting when you really apply it and customize it to each group's foundational drivers. And they will understand why you're trying to do this initiative. So when you speak with human resources, when we put in identity and access management, when we're putting in, I'm just throwing out a name, Okta, or we're putting in privileged access management, or whatever you're trying to do that you need HR to support you, it's going to help with employee productivity. It's going to automate all those manual tasks you are doing right now in Excel spreadsheets, because trust me, they're still doing them in Excel spreadsheets. So when you're onboarding, your team is going to save time. It's going to drive accuracy. And you know what? It's going to speed things up. So instead of new employees waiting 5 days to finally get access because an Excel spreadsheet is being emailed all over the company and nobody knows what point it's at right now, identity and access management will automatically grant them access permissions based on their role. It takes a while to put that together, but that's the goal we're going for. So that's how you can twist it for them. It also helps with performance management. So employees will be given access to what they need to be successful. You're giving employees a chance to improve their performance. Benefits management, you're able to sleep a little better at night. HR team, with all that really secure, really sensitive benefits information that you receive from new employees, for example, or every year when people sign up. I remember the days, and they were not so long ago, where when you started a company, you would have to email a picture of your passport. And it wasn't that long ago. So things are much better now. But identity and access management ensures that only the right people who are authorized to view this information, if you do keep it on site or you use a SaaS provider, only people who are authorized to view this information in either scenario can access it and view it. And finally, sanctions. This is a key point. Human beings do silly things. We do. If we see a file that's called pay by roles, Excel spreadsheet on a shared drive, depending on how your day is going, you might click on that file because human beings are curious creatures. We have a very big interest that piques our interest. So you protect employees against themselves. You protect them. So you can restrict access. You can fine tune access. So that kind of file is automatically restricted. So employees won't even be tempted to be able to even try to open up that file. Sales and marketing. What can identity and access management help sales and marketing with? Well, driving revenue. IT is not a sales blocker. So a salesperson who's running very quickly with a deal is not going to have to stop and go, oh, I don't have access to this file that I need because the sharing permissions are all scattered and ad hoc all over the place. It's automated with a centralized tool. So if they need to have access, they have it, and it automates all of that. IT then is not a blocker for sales, messaging, and brand perception. If you think ahead, if there is a breach, there is a high potential, that you're going to land in the news. If you're in sales and marketing, that is a nightmare. So you can approach it that way, or you can approach it more positively, where you say, you're able then to push a message of trust. We really have tools in place here at our company that we really make sure that we lock down access to who really needs to see it to lower the risk, reduce the risk of unauthorized access. And I'm coming towards the end here. Finance, the last group. Identity and access management. What's it going to help with? Self-explanatory. You need IIM or some resemblance to it for SOX, audit compliance, global regulatory requirements, possibly some privacy, organization risk. CFOs are very sensitive about organizational risk, access and usage of internal assets that are highly, highly sensitive and using them for harm. So this is a great way, if you frame your message this way, this is what IIM will help protect. And finally, revenue, finance management, just like with HR, you've got all this sensitive information. We're going to help protect access to that. You can then sleep better at night. And finally, this is a really important aspect from a soft skill perspective. 7 styles of learning. Everybody has different ways that they intake information. So they have different drivers, as we covered, what's important to them, but they also have different ways of intaking information. So if you present something visually to someone who is an auditory learner, you're not going to be as effective as if you had them listen to something first, for example, or have them do it themselves if they're a kinetic type of learner. So that's why I always like to talk about these. And so you can consider these whenever you need to deliver a message or a presentation and all the good research that you've put together. So the 7 styles are visual, and people can be a mixture of many of these, but people are usually pretty dominant in one. Visual. They like to see it. They have to look at it and go, ah, I get it. I see it in front of me. I like pretty pictures, like Ashton, what Ashton is doing. Beautiful for visual learners, this whole visualization of these talks. right? Oops, there we go. Auditory. They need to hear it. They need to hear somebody saying something for them to really intake that information. So if you're in a big lecture hall at college, it doesn't bother you so much being around all those people and not being able to see the screen, as long as you can clearly hear the instructor, because that's how you intake and process. Kinesthetic. I call this kinetic, but I guess that's a shortened way of doing it, of saying it. This is, you have to do it yourself. This is me to a T, for example, where I have to do it myself before it lands in my head, or else it's never going to go in there. Don't tell me anything. Don't show me anything. Don't make me listen to anything. I need to do it like a lab. And then I go, oh, I got it. So if you put an exercise in a presentation for the team, for the group to do, you're going to capture the attention of these folks. Logical. It has to make sense, or else you will have people sitting, these folks sitting there going, it doesn't connect for me. It doesn't connect for me. So logical means you have to make it, these are very, very much in the way of math. You have to make it make sense. You have to storytell in a way, put the whole package together so they understand how A gets to Z without skipping letters in between. Verbal, you just talk. I think this is probably one of the least used and least favorite ones. Nobody likes to be talked at, but there are some people who intake information the best way, this way. Intrapersonal. So some people, typically introverts, take information and they need to take it offline, maybe even for a couple of days. And they need to go, I need to look at it, I need to process it internally, and then I can come back and make a decision, or now I understand. So for those people, it really helps to give them the information before the meeting, for example, or what you're trying to achieve, so they understand it first, and then they can come with questions. But then you have the opposite, which is they need to work with people and they need to hear other people's thoughts. These are the extroverts who get energy from other people, and they need to hear other people's opinions and thoughts and get involved with what's going on in front of them and understand. And that's how they intake information. So in a nutshell, in summary, every person is different. And the more you can customize following these tips and tricks that I just went through, the better, to really make it resonate, your message that you need to get across to persuade and influence. And here is my LinkedIn. Please reach out if we're already not connected, and I will look for questions in the Slack channel.